Thank you very much. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today. Sustainability is such a critical issue. It's the hottest business topic of today, and temperatures are rising, and we have a massive challenge. I was amazed this morning to find out all the data that's going to be announced soon to shift towards net zero. Although sustainability means different things to different people, one thing is clear: it's a growing concern for all of us. And businesses around the world are transforming their operations, their strategies, their organizations, and their product portfolios to meet the changes and to make their organization and their brands more sustainable. Today, our objective is to share with you some of the thinking around how technology can help us become more sustainable. There are some questions we'll try to tackle. How will technology create lasting change? How do businesses' traditional activities need to be adapted to secure a position in our changing world? How do brand reputation and company culture will fit into this puzzle? And how are we moving beyond the initial hype of sustainability and ESG? Technology is both an optimizer and a catalyst for change in this complicated world. So a few data points I'd like to share with you before we start our discussion. BCG, the knowledge partner of GREENTECH Festival, has some findings. First of all, the cost issue is particularly challenging in industrial sectors. Consider green technologies to decarbonize aviation. On the other hand, the cost disadvantage is not set in stone, and as green technologies scale, their cost disadvantage is likely to decline. There is an untapped market for green. When you look at BCG's Sustainability Consumer Survey, and this is critical for companies that have brands that are selling direct to consumers, found that less than 10% of consumers purchase on sustainability just to save the planet. But the number of consumers increases to 20%, from 20% to even 43%, when sustainability is linked to other benefits such as health, safety, and quality. Our research at Vodafone Business into what makes businesses fit for the future has recently focused on sustainability. It's a global survey. We went to more than 3,000 businesses around the world across 15 markets, and we found that businesses actively working on sustainability are now attracting more potential investment, but some other findings. Businesses are taking action on environmental sustainability. However, 54% of businesses agree that they are too reliant on offsetting rather than real action. So is this a sign of businesses taking sustainability more seriously? Or are businesses too reliant on offsetting their carbon impact? Then, 58% of businesses think major technology breakthroughs will be needed to enable progress on sustainability. And then finally, 70% of businesses surveyed agreed that there is greater need for collaboration across organizations to fully conquer the biggest sustainability. It was said at the award ceremony last night: if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I think this is a wonderful platform to underline that. So these are some of the topics we will cover. Now, let me introduce the panelists. Firstly, we have Cordelia Thielitz, the European Operations Strategy Vice President at Schneider Electric, a company that's at the center of sustainability. Is the French multinational that specializes in digital automation and energy management. And in 2021, Schneider Electric was named the world's most sustainable company in the Corporate Knights Global 100 ranking. So I was delighted to see Schneider Electric taking part in this panel today. Next, we have Sandra Dolder, the Senior Vice President of Industry Initiatives at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. It's a lot of words, a lot of letters, NYCEDC. is a non-profit corporation who help to support entrepreneurship in the largest city in America. One of their main focuses is on delivering sustainable infrastructure for communities and the city's future economy. Then I have Walter Haas, as CTO of Huawei Germany, company we work very closely with, is a leading global provider of information and communications technology infrastructure and smart devices. And Huawei is dedicated to sustainable socio-economic development and strives to build a better connected world in which everyone can share everything. And finally, I have Karsten Schnake, a board member for procurement at Skoda Auto. Skoda has been manufacturing cars for over 100 years and remains one of the most innovative car manufacturers today. For all products and mobility solutions, Skoda aspires to minimize environmental impacts along the entire life cycle. And they have an internal Green Future program since 2012, more than 10 years. So I will invite first Cordelia to give us a quick introduction and share with us how Schneider Electric became the world's most sustainable company in 2021.
Thank you, Ebru. Happy to do that. So I'm sitting here actually in a very proud position and representing Schneider, and I can tell you that we started this journey already in 2005. So this was when sustainability was not even a buzzword, let alone a hype. And I want to give you also some data point. In the years 2018 until 2021, actually we have, because of all the sustainability efforts that we are driving, we could realize 800 million tons of CO2 emission reduction with the help of our product services at the end of our customers. So this is a real impact. But the question was, how did we get there? And I think it's like with every great project, it always starts with a charismatic and truly believing and honestly believing leader, which we have had with our long-standing CEO in Schneider. So as I said, 2005 he started. And the second important thing is, when you believe in something, you need to make it happen. And so there is about setting targets. So we were setting targets. We give ourselves a set of sustainability goals. They don't fall from heaven. They're actually derived from the United Nations sustainability goals. There are 6 different categories. We use them. There's 11 targets for ourselves that we derive there to make it measurable. And this is then also what we are implementing upon. So this is how the journey started. Then the next important thing is that it's not just a target on a piece of paper that is sticked at the wall, but it is actually part of our bonus program. So our managers and Schneiders are also measured, or part of the bonuses that we all receive is hinging on how successful we are performing against our targets. And then, of course, implementation goes with starting with your own house. So look to the man in the mirror, so to say. So we started to turn our own manufacturing plants, buildings, and the lucky situation is that we are having technologies. We're very big in energy efficiency. We have put our bet also onto digitization, where we always say, make the invisible visible, to really see where is energy being generated, consumed, and also largely lost, which is majorly in buildings and around industrial entities. So we have learned in the course of all those years techniques, methods, also trials and errors to actually get this done. And now that we are in that stage, our next goal is until 2030 actually to be 100% on scope free, emission free. This is a huge thing because it is 11 times as much of energy or CO2 emissions actually that goes into that scope free than in our own operations. So it's a huge challenge. And it is important to take our suppliers, customers, partners along. So Schneider is very big on creating ecosystems. It's not like I know it all and here is the best solution, but it's creating a platform that is also open to our suppliers where everyone can learn from. Just to start out with some of the activities we did.
Excellent. Our research also showed that if you don't measure properly at board level, you will never achieve. So really impressive. I'll turn to Sander, who flew over from the other side. Now, as I mentioned, climate change is the greatest threat in New York City. And NYCEDC is involved in the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resiliency project, so I would love to hear more. I personally experienced the change in the area, so please tell us about your efforts.
Sure, and I'll take a quick step back before getting into the actual infrastructure project. So the long acronym, NYCEDC, we're basically the business development arm for the city of New York. And part of what we do is, of course, think about how do we create jobs, how do we sort of invest in the future industries where we feel New York can be competitive in. But part of it is also how do we create enabling infrastructure. And so when we look at climate change and sort of the industries that are tied to it, on one hand, we have we manage a lot of real estate across New York along the waterfront. And so part of it is how do we adapt that to sort of address some of these issues? So climate adaptation is certainly one piece of it, right? And the resiliency efforts. And so we have an office that sets the policies, but we are sort of the vehicle that helps implement a lot of these solutions. So the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resiliency Project is basically building, they basically call it a big U around Lower Manhattan. And so all along the waterfront, they're basically factoring in sea level rise, potential flooding from increased storms because we're going to get more and more hurricanes up there. And so how do we adapt to it? And so it's a project to sort of, on one hand, deal with resiliency issues and climate adaptation, but then also increase the livability in New York City by creating park space, by creating different ways for the citizens to be able to access the waterfront. And so that's on one part. And then on some other pieces that we're working on from an infrastructure standpoint is using our waterfront properties for offshore wind and sort of the staging areas of it. We're also using the waterfront for cargo and really thinking about how do we go into emissions-free cargo transportation, anything from moving all the waste that comes in New York City, and how do we sort of transport it and think about it in new ways where we don't use trucks and congestion and all these kind of things that we've done in the past. And then lastly, we're using a lot of our assets too for innovation. So anything from supporting startups to working with large corporates and thinking about how do we optimize and use these waterfront properties as for testing, for prototyping, for further product development. And so there's a whole host of things there, but it boils down to eventually creating these industries in New York.
It's a wonderful project, and I think when corporations come together with public, it's a great example to see what can be done. I move on to Walter. Huawei has pledged to create tech for a better planet for decades and has been committed to protecting the environment. So tell us about an overview of the sustainability initiatives at Huawei.
Yeah, thank you, Ebru. It's a pleasure to be here in Berlin and speaking about this topic. So, in fact, we have this program since a couple of years, and it is not only about sustainability, it's also bridging the digital divide, so helping people, especially in developing countries, getting connected, which are not yet connected. So we are a technology company, and we believe that innovation and technology is a key foundation for these transformations. So it was said in other discussions before, without digital, no I'm confident no energy transformation, no decarbonization of industries is possible. And our drivers here are, on the one hand side, our customers' requirements. Customers as well having their sustainability strategy. And we as an infrastructure provider, we always aiming to provide best performance, best in breed performance technology with the lowest power consumption. And you can imagine power consumption of infrastructure was always a topic, but nowadays it's top priority at all our customers. Let me give you some aspects. One, first on the product side. So we have initiated an initiative since 2019. We call it More Bits, Less Watts. So, and in this, we are doing a lot of innovations. For example, in 5G mobile networks, these are very complex antennas with hundreds of small dipole antennas, which are controlled in real time. But we want to switch off resources which are not in idle mode. This sounds simple, but it is really a tough task. We are using a lot of AI technology and algorithms that at the end we need to wake up these resources again, and without that the customers are feeling a degradation of the service. And a lot of such things, in sum up, we can reduce by such topics as the power consumption by more than 30%. Another topic is optical networks. So we believe optical networks is the only future. With optical networks, you can reduce power consumption compared to electrical or copper networks by up to 80%. But there are still some challenges. So in a future report, we have analyzed that, for example, in 2030, we need to enlarge the capacity via one single optical fiber 100-fold. At the same time, we need to decrease the power consumption in the same scale, 100 times. So that is really, so we need a lot of innovation breakthroughs to achieve that thing. Another example is AI computing will increase 500 times. Yeah, but with today's power consumption, it will not work. So there are a lot of challenges in front of us. So, but we as a company, we have adopted sustainability as an end-to-end program in our company. And of course, we are promoting digital, but we are digitalizing ourselves first. So all our core processes are digitalized, and we are doing a lot of things. For example, we have now other things. We have renewed all our air conditions in our own office buildings by heat pumps. We are doing natural cooling for our own data center, and so on. A lot of small things. And by this, we could save last year 200 million kilowatt hours electrical power. And it's similar to 100,000 tons CO2. So that is one thing. But what I would like to mention, it is important that all these things are having as well a lot of benefits. So, and we are sure this can create a lot of benefits. These are not burdens and additional costs. If you are doing right, it can create a lot of benefits.
Thank you very much. At every level, right? At every area. Karsten, you are in a company that is a consumer brand, as I was saying, and the consumer approach is also important. But I know that by 2025, at Skoda, you plan to reduce their total life cycle greenhouse gas emissions of passenger cars by 30% compared to 2015. What has the highest impact in this? What is high on your agenda?
Let me say it this way. At the end of the day, Skoda as a brand in the Volkswagen Group, as a mobility provider for individual mobility, part of the society, we have to be accepted and we have to go forward together with the expectations of the society and of the customers. And there's a clear direction which we have, and I think also we all together, a chance, a one-century chance we have to do this much more better than in the past, and to grant also the future for the next generations. And these targets, and from my point of view, we will see over the years if we can improve that, if we can accelerate this. At the end of the day, we are working together with partners, and we have also to grant the future of these partners. And with this spirit, we have really this one-century chance to change this. And we are driving this with a mindset that this is an impact we have to reduce to the maximum for the customers and for the next generations, as which they are coming. And we are doing this, and I think you pointed this out at the beginning, we are speaking also about partnering. Today we are working together with roughly 48,000 partners, with hundreds of thousands of people. These people expect that they can do their part of changing this tremendous issue for the human beings, and we are part of that. We have to do our job to be in the future also part of the society. That's the topic why this reduction, what you pointed out, is so important for us and is be expected by the society.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do another round. Cordelia. Now, our research has shown that also large businesses like us are already taking actions. We have sustainability progress reports in our companies. We measure that. However, for smaller businesses, they're much more skeptical around that because they are more in the survival mode. There's cost of living crisis and so on. And for smaller businesses and SMEs, sustainability is not that high on the agenda. At Schneider, do you have any initiatives to encourage smaller businesses to bring them up to speed? And this morning, there was a gentleman referred to the educational challenge we have. So are there any efforts you're doing?
No, we do actually, and it is a good point. I would almost like to turn tables and say that there is actually a huge chance for small, medium-sized companies actually to benefit from all the work, also from all the mistakes and detours that the big companies have gone through. Because, and I give you an example indeed with Schneider. So we have, in 2021, we've released our zero carbon project, which is targeted at our suppliers, as I mentioned, to be on the course, to become really emission zero in scope 3. So this means it's important, absolutely important and imperative that we take our suppliers along. And this program is actually targeted at the top thousands of our suppliers. And here we do talk about different sizes of companies. So it's of course the big, typical suspects with the big names, but it's a whole ton of really small and medium-sized businesses. And on the one hand side, we pressure them quite a bit because we request them to also calculate, to measure, to set targets, to have reports, to follow through. Because otherwise we also, we want to work with people that are on the same journey as we are. But at the same time, we are also offering our services to them. So we give them access actually through, there's a web platform which we call Exchange, where we basically share best practices, information, we provide tools. And this is because I think the title of the session being how we dance together. And that is really where things are coming together. So it was, I think, to some extent, an upfront investment, to go through the learning cycle. But now for Schneider, and I think it is similarly possible also for other companies, we've created actually sustainability consulting, so where we basically use this learning that we have gone through to go with our both customers and suppliers through their facilities. We help them track, so we provide a service, they pick up, they learn with us, they use our tools, they use our best practices. At the same time, they're also sharing, they also put their knowledge onto the platform. And in this way, I really feel this sustainability topic is also changing the relationship amongst us because it becomes an ecosystem. It is not we, the consumer, they, the supplier, but we are coming all in this ecosystem on our side and we are all learning together. So this is our initiative actually to share knowledge and to move the learnings ahead and really go to achieve net zero at the end of the day.
And we'll be talking afterwards how we can join our forces after the panel. Wonderful. Another key stakeholder is citizens. And New York City has 8.5 million people, and roughly 2.3 million have a bachelor's degree or above. This is more than LA, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Boston combined. Now, do you have any efforts as NYCEDC to engage more?
Yeah, and this could be an entire conversation in itself, but I'll try to keep it brief. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to the sustainability space and the climate transition, for us to meet the goals, we have to completely retrain a lot of the citizens to fill those goals, right? So for instance, with offshore wind, you have certain criteria to build by 2030. That means you need to have people trained in the next 2 years to begin construction. And so the jobs range, if you look across the board, and we're releasing a comprehensive study and action plan in the fall, but it goes from anything from electricians and how you reskill and upskill electricians to be able to address sort of the sustainability area topics. So whether it's offshore wind or building retrofits, there's significant needs there, all the way to sort of your postdoctorate research jobs on the future of biotech and how new materials can reduce emissions and how we can apply those to buildings. And so that is sort of a unique thing that we haven't seen in a long, long time, in probably a century, where there's just this complete update of infrastructure. And then in the United States, it went from nothing to an overdrive in a matter of 2-3 years. And so it needs to happen very quickly. It needs to include not just university students, but anything from vocational schools to apprenticeships, which is not common in the US, to sort of these more university jobs, engineering, those kind of things. And then one last point on that front is, part of it has to start early. So how do you build curriculum in kindergarten through 12th grade to start that process? And part of it is engaging them in the activities that we're doing and trying to expose them to what the solutions are, how you deal with climate justice issues, how you work with communities that have to face the reality of sea level rise. And so exposure is very important in engagement across the board.
Thank you very much. Now, a segue to this, Walter, 35% of the world population does not have access to internet. And you have a wonderful program about digital inclusion. Can we touch a little bit on that?
So I think that, let me tell you one story. So a couple of years ago, when we brought latest technology here to Europe, the people thinking here the Europe market or the European markets or the Western markets are defining the requirements. But in fact, it's not. In fact, the markets in Africa, somewhere in Middle East or in other developing countries defining the requirements, because at that time for $30 a month, not $3 a month, for $3 a month, an operator per subscriber, an operator need to build up a complete network, including phone, all the infrastructure, everything. Yeah? And that is a complete different requirement if you want to do that than having here in some, let's say, rich countries. Yeah? So, and therefore we really set up a program, and we directed our innovations into that direction, being very efficient, covering large scale of areas, covering large scale of populations. So that was a complete driver in that topic. And it is still today. Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you consider how difficult it is in such areas to simply build the network. Yeah, so you need to have a lot of guidance to your partner to support this, and this is really a complete different story than straight on forward. And without specific programs and specific targets, you cannot achieve.
Yeah. Very impressive. Thank you so much. Karsten, how educated and engaged are employees at Skoda on sustainability?
Yeah, I can tell you, but for me was also something when you were coming because I'm working for the group since over 27 years. You're coming to a brand. I'm working down there for 3 years, and you met the first time the people. The first thing is, and I think especially when we are looking for the future, we see a little bit of this optimistic spirit in the presentation before. When you are looking to our young people, young engineers, people in the marketing, people in the, let me say, in the finance, administration, everywhere, you feel much more inspired and you feel much more motivated if you are working for sustainable issues, if you are creating a future which is much more sustainable. And this is something which is putting energy to the people. So it's not a question how my imagination or how my experience is with the people. If I'm looking to the people have really this energy to create something which is better than today, something which is new, something which is sustainable. And I find this not only in our company, also with our partners. If you're going there, if you're going to the development centers, if you're going, and I think it's for the whole industry, not only for us, I think you have more and more people which decided for themselves, if I want to do something, I'm working for these aspects to change this to a better future. So this makes me so optimistic for this issue, because now this power comes from itself. So we have a starting point, we give this from the politics, from the society, but now there is something which is self-fulfilling, and the energy is given from the people to the network again, and this is really cool.
It's from the heart. Yeah. In the last 2 minutes that I have a question to all my panelists. What important new trend would you like to see at the GREENTECH Festival next year? What should we discuss?
So I think we should add more artificial intelligence now to our discussion and see how this is, because we've done a lot with software, with digitization, we are all talking about data, but to enrich the debate with what is the additional potential that we can raise there, and do that in a non-ideological way, but be very pragmatic about it and make the best of it that it offers.
I would say, from a topical perspective, I just think the revolution in biotech has so many applications for sustainability, from fashion to food to building materials and construction. So different kinds of concrete, sustainable clothing, and then food. There's a whole world around cellular agriculture, and I think there's just a lot there, and some of it might stick and some of it might not.
Thank you. Walter?
So I believe there are so many people with great ideas, with good visions. I think my hope is that all this knowledge, all these ideas are involved into the discussion, that we came away from pure political discussions to really target-oriented things, that we can see some progress in getting really forward.
Excellent.
Coming to your issue with the political discussion, I would take it, and what my wish is, and I think you started here also when I'm looking for your agenda in the next 2 days, much more dialogue between all parts of the society, so between the politics, between society organizations, which you're also invited more and more here, and also the industry, because we have together, we have first of all to touch more and to find more dialogue together, to steer this development, which is now, from my point of view, really going in the right direction. But we have to accelerate this, and then all these parts of a society should be closer together and not always nervous if we are too close. And with this dialogue, I think we can accelerate this. So I think also in your agenda I see this, because last year to this year it's getting more, but when you whenever we have this for the next year, also intensifies and accelerates this.
Excellent. We're bang on time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to the audience. And I made some notes. I look forward to seeing you next year, and hopefully we'll go over these. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.